My name's Anna Boyan, I'm 32, and my family has always preferred stories that fit neatly inside a frame. Fathers are foundations, mothers are mediators, and daughters are meant to be symbols you can raise a toast to over roast beef. I used to belong in that picture, the dependable one, quiet and steady, the one who filled the gaps before anyone noticed they were there. An accountant with a pulse. The group text came on a Tuesday afternoon. My mother's cheerful punctuation marched across the screen like toy soldiers. Family dinner next Saturday. Full attendance. No excuses. I could already hear her voice, bright, tight, stretched over a drum of nerves. I was staring at the message when my boyfriend, Mark, rinsed our coffee mugs in the sink. "You going?" he asked. They said full attendance. He placed the mug on the rack, studying me. Mark has one of those faces that always seems honest. "Do you want to go?" In my family, wanting never counted for much. "It's easier if I just show up," I said. He smiled slightly. "If it gets weird, text me one word. I'll call with a fake emergency." I smirked. "What word?" "Pineapple. No one suspects fruit." "Deal," I said. I thought I was joking. By Saturday I had my plan. Arrive on time, bring a decent bottle of red, help set the table, smile where appropriate, keep the peace, and keep my sister's secrets. Again. That had been my job for years. Keeping Jasmine's world from splitting at the seams. I'd quietly covered rent, tuition, car insurance, even the laptop she lost during midterms. I paid and everyone praised her. Cause and effect dressed up as miracle. I parked outside my parents' house and watched the porch light buzz like a nervous thought. Inside, my mother was already moving plates as if arranging chess pieces. "Anna," she sang full name, which meant guests or guilt. "So glad you're early. Can you slice the bread? The rosemary loaf. And use the napkins with the gold trim." I kissed her cheek. "Hi, Mom." Then I set down the wine, rolled up my sleeves, and slipped back into character. Reliable daughter, efficient hands, polite smile. Uncle Rob arrived first, smelling of cologne and goodwill. Then Aunt Carol. Observant, opinionated, and proud of it. Finally, in her usual display of casual lateness, Jasmine swept in, hoodie worth a car payment, phone glued to her hand, smile barely reaching her eyes. My mother glowed as though Jasmine had just returned from space. My father straightened, proud. Jasmine tossed her purse on the bench. "Hey," she said to no one in particular, eyes still on her phone. Dinner was small talk in motion. Weather, neighbors, grocery prices. I contributed with nods. The roast shimmered beneath two bright lights. 15 minutes in, the ritual began. My father stood, glass in hand, and cleared his throat with the gravity of ceremony. "To Jasmine," he said warmly, eyes shining, "who showed us what real determination looks like, who worked hard, stayed focused, and achieved success with no handouts. That's how you build a life." The clinking followed. Aunt Carol lifting her water like it was wine. My mother blinking too fast. Jasmine smiling that tiny rehearsed smile. And me? Something inside my chest shifted. A latch quietly undone. It would have been easy to let the lie pass as always. But I could see the numbers in my mind. Every transfer, every autopay, every phone call to financial aid while Jasmine posted brunch photos. The way my father beamed at the daughter standing on the shoulders of another. I didn't raise my glass. I raised my voice just enough. "Then she'll be fine without the tuition transfers I've been sending every semester," I said. Silence. A fork clinked against a plate like a cymbal. Jasmine froze, her smile fell. My mother's lips shaped a wordless O. My father blinked as if I'd spoken in a language he didn't know. I took a slow sip of water. And the car insurance since sophomore year. And the MacBook when hers died. And the rent, which, by the way, is still autopaid from my account. "Anna," my mother whispered, pale. "Not now. No handouts, right?" I set my glass down gently. Guess she won't need mine anymore. Jasmine's phone lit up with a notification she ignored. She placed it face down, cautiously, as though sudden movement would provoke me to say more. I hadn't planned to, but the truth, once freed, has its own hunger. "I'm not angry," I said. "Just adjusting my actions to match Dad's values." I turned toward him. "You're right. Success is built, not given. So I'm done giving." His jaw flexed. "This isn't appropriate dinner talk." It's the dinner you asked for, I replied, softer than I felt. The air went heavy. Steam rose from plates like the only thing still alive in the room. No one asked about my job, my team, my house, or the endless balancing I did to stay afloat. They never had. I was the ceiling, invisible until I cracked. We finished in silence, the kind that exposes what's under the floorboards. Uncle Rob chewed carefully. Aunt Carol watched me like she was testing a bridge for strength. My mother kept folding and refolding her napkin. After dessert, I thanked my mother, put on my coat. My father avoided my eyes. Jasmine stared fixedly, waiting for the moment to pass as if magic might reset it all. Outside, winter air felt thin and clean. In my car, I opened my banking app and began dismantling the scaffolding. Tuition canceled, rent removed, insurance closed. Each confirmation was a quiet exhale I'd owed myself. I thought my hands would tremble. They didn't. They felt steady, like something heavy had finally been set down. When I walked into the apartment, Mark looked up from the couch. "Hey, how did?" He saw my face and stood. "You need pineapple?" I laughed, the sound cracking halfway through. "Already did it," I said. "Told them. Turned everything off." He pulled me close. "Good. Now breathe." I leaned against him. "Inhale. 2-3. Exhale. 2-3. My mind replayed the night. The toast, the clink, the napkin corners, Jasmine's phone going dark. "You're allowed to choose yourself," Mark murmured into my hair. "You're allowed to stop." I keep thinking I should have done it quietly. "You did it truthfully," he said. We sat together, listening to the soft hum of the house, pipes, fridge, the quiet confidence of things built to last. Beyond the windows, the world kept turning, unaware that in a dining room with gold-edged napkins, an old story had finally cracked. That night, my phone stayed still. No angry messages, no apologies dressed as concern. The silence felt like the calm of a house after guests leave, perfume and roasted garlic lingering in the air. I sat at my desk, opened my laptop and typed a note to myself. "You are not the safety net. You are not the villain for stepping away. If the applause was real, it will survive without you." I closed it and watched the ceiling fan make its slow circles. 4 years. I'd been the uncredited part of someone else's story. Tonight I just stopped acting. At 2:17 a.m., I woke with that sharp awareness that something had shifted, the way you sense a storm seconds before it hits. I didn't know what would follow, only that the machine would notice its missing gear. In the dark, my phone stayed face down. The room held its breath with me. It was the first night they would sleep without my name on their receipts. And in the morning they would wake to a truth no toast could disguise. For 3 days after dinner, my phone stayed silent. No calls, no messages, not even Mom's chirpy "hope you're doing well" that usually floated in like smoke. I thought the quiet would bother me. It didn't. It felt like air returning to my lungs after years underwater. I went to work, handled meetings, got coffee without checking my phone every 5 minutes for crises that weren't mine. I stopped tensing when the bank app pinged. Nothing left for them to drain. Freedom, I realized, isn't fireworks. It's the sound of nothing breaking. On the 4th morning, the first crack appeared. Subject: urgent, tuition payment overdue. I stared at the email. Jasmine's name, balance due. Threat of removal from classes. My mouse hovered over delete. Reflex said fix it before anyone knew. Then I remembered the toast, the pride, the emptiness. Click. Deleted. That evening, while making tea, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. "Jasmine. Hey, can we talk?" No apology, no recognition, no thanks for years of invisible rescue. I watched the screen until my tea went cold, then flipped the phone face down. The next day, Mom called. I didn't answer. Her voicemail was too bright, the tone she used to hold control together. "Hi, sweetheart. Just thinking we should all catch up soon. Jasmine's having a little hiccup with her school payments. She's been so stressed. Maybe she just needs to talk to you. You know how she looks up to you, right?" I laughed quietly. Looked up to me? No, she looked past me. Past the person patching her messes. I texted back one line. "Not my responsibility anymore." An hour later, Reed appeared. No reply. The next morning, Dad's name flashed on my screen. I almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity won. I wanted to hear which version of the story he'd tell. The story he'd crafted for himself was ready to begin again. When I picked up the call, his voice was sharp, businesslike, as if he were speaking to a client instead of his daughter. Anna, your sister's in trouble. Her tuition's overdue, and she's about to lose her classes. You could help, but you're just standing by. I inhaled slowly. Dad, I helped her finish high school. I helped her get into college and stay there. I bought her a car, paid her rent, her insurance, her tuition. I've done more for her than either of you ever did. And I never once got so much as a thank you, let alone a toast. The silence that followed stretched thin like elastic about to snap. Finally, he said, "She's family." "So am I," I replied quietly. "And I'm done being treated like a spare parent with a wallet." He mumbled something about respect before hanging up. Typical. And just like that, the mirror I'd been standing in front of reflected too much truth. I placed the phone down and exhaled. My hands were steady, but the heaviness in my chest lingered. It's strange how guilt doesn't fade the second you set a boundary. It clings like memory in the muscles, whispering that peace is selfish. For once, I didn't rush to fix it. I just sat in that quiet ache. Days passed, no calls, no messages. Maybe that was it, I thought. Until a week later, a slow, deliberate knock echoed through my apartment. I froze. My body knew before my mind caught up. Through the peephole, Jasmine. No car outside. No Uber idling at the curb. She'd either walked or taken the bus. She looked smaller. Not thinner, just deflated. Shoulders sagging, her phone limp in her hand. Another knock. "Anna, I know you're in there." I said nothing. I just need to talk." "Okay. Please." That last word cracked something inside me, but not enough to open the door. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood, listening to her soft, uneven breaths on the other side. I remembered every bill, every late-night transfer, every time I said, "Don't worry, I've got it," while she smiled and went back to scrolling. Now she stood in the silence she helped create. After a minute, her breathing broke. Then came the footsteps. Through the peephole, I watched her pull up her hood and walk away, swallowed by the hallway's dull light. I didn't open the door. Not out of hate, but because I didn't recognize her anymore. 2 weeks later, the email I'd been expecting arrived. Notification. Student withdrawal. Jasmine Boland, official. Final. No tuition. No classes. No apartment. And just like that, the golden glow my parents had polished for years began to flicker out. For so long, Jasmine had been the daughter they toasted. The perfect story they told at every family gathering. Now she was just another story, one with bills and excuses. And for once, I wasn't the footnote. I didn't know what came next, but I knew this. The silence wasn't an ending. It was the sound of their illusion beginning to fracture. Nearly a month went by. Still no calls, no messages. I assumed my parents had decided to erase me. A trick they'd used before whenever truth got too loud. Then one evening, Aunt Carol called. She was the family's truth teller. Never polite enough to play along with the perfect daughter, perfect parents act. Her voice was low. "Anna, have you talked to your folks lately?" "No." "Why?" She sighed. "They're worried sick. Jasmine's back home. Sleeps half the day, barely leaves her room. Says she's job hunting, but from what I hear, she's glued to that phone. It's bad." I sat still. My heart didn't race. They'd wanted her home. Now they had her. Carol exhaled softly. "You know, your parents built her up so high they couldn't see the ground. But she's hit it hard." After we hung up, I sat in the dark, thinking about the pedestal my parents had carved for Jasmine, made from my money, my patience, and my silence. And now the cracks they refused to see were splitting wide open. A week later, Mom's number flashed again. I didn't answer. But this time, she left a voicemail that didn't sound practiced or bright. "Anna, things aren't easy here. Jasmine's struggling. She's not herself. Your father and I are trying, but..." Her voice trailed off. No guilt trips, no emotional bait. Just exhaustion. I didn't call back. 2 days later, Dad rang. "Anna," he started, skipping greetings. "Your mother's worried sick. Jasmine's moody, snapping at us. She's behind on her credit cards and I had to cover one." I said nothing. He hesitated. "I know things were said that night at dinner." "Things weren't said, Dad," I interrupted. "They were revealed." He ignored it. "We're all struggling right now. Groceries bills, you know how it is. There it was, the dance around the real question. I decided to stop it early. If this call's about money, the answer's no. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. A long silence followed, the kind that forces truth into the open. Finally, he said, a little defensively, "You've always been the stable one, Anna. You can afford to help. Jasmine just needs a little boost." I drew a steady breath. Is she still using the laptop I bought her? He paused. No. She sold it. For rent. Or spending money. I closed my eyes. She sold it to avoid working, Dad. You can't fix that with another bailout. He sighed heavily. So what? Just let her drown. My voice stayed even. Start seeing her as she is, not as you wish she were. He didn't respond. The silence said everything. Then bitterly, "You sound just like your grandfather." And the line went dead. When I set my phone down, my chest felt lighter than it should have. Not happy, just relieved. The kind of peace that comes when you finally drop something that was never yours to hold. That night I walked the neighborhood. Cold air, sharp stars. Every house glowed faintly, each family spinning its own quiet myth of perfection. I thought about how long my parents had clung to theirs, how they needed Jasmine to be proof that their favoritism was justified. But without my help funding the illusion, reality was closing in fast. Over the next 2 weeks, news trickled in through texts and whispers. Jasmine's not job hunting. She's blaming the economy. Your mom's paying her credit cards. Your dad's embarrassed, keeps quiet. I never asked for updates, they found me anyway. Like smoke slipping through cracks under a door. Then one gray Thursday, Dad called again. His voice low, stripped of pride. "Anna, I think we were wrong." I waited. He cleared his throat. "We wanted her to succeed so badly, we stopped asking if she was even trying. Now she's angry. Lost. She blames everyone. Especially you." "Of course she does," I said softly. "Blame's easier than accountability." He sighed. "Your mother and I don't know what to do anymore." I looked out at the street below. People coming home from work, tired but proud. "Maybe that's the point," I said. "Maybe it's not our job to fix it. Maybe Jasmine needs to feel what she's avoided all this time, consequence." He didn't like that. I could hear it in the tightness of his breath. "You're being cruel." "No," I said quietly. "I'm being consistent." We hung up without saying goodbye. That night I wrote in my journal, "They're not protecting her anymore. They're protecting the guilt of having made her." The cracks in their illusion were spreading fast now. The next morning Mom texted. She says she might take a semester off to regroup. Regroup. Their favorite euphemism for failure. I typed and erased a dozen replies before settling on none. They didn't deserve comfort for the storm they'd chosen to ignore. Still, I couldn't help picturing Jasmine pacing that old living room, the pedestal beneath her slowly collapsing, while my parents stood helpless beside her, finally seeing what I'd seen all along. Jasmine's success had never been real. It was a reflection, and I had been the mirror. Now that I'd stepped away, they were staring at their own distorted image, and watching it crumble. By mid-April, my phone rang again. But this time it wasn't them. It was Jake, an old coworker from my first tech job, the kind who never calls without a reason. "Hey Anna," he said. "Random question. You know anyone looking for an entry-level support role? Nothing fancy. Steady hours, decent pay, benefits. Thought of you." I hesitated. "You thought of me?" He laughed. No, I meant maybe you knew someone. You've got